Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. In this video I'd like to discuss the latest on the newfangled ventilators that the government was so keen on promoting and how we're still nowhere near getting any of them as we reach a critical month for the NHS. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news in politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, although ventilators are not the be-all and end-all of dealing with this crisis, I know some doctors in particular are getting a little bit irked about the focus on ventilators when in actual fact there's other equipment you need around an intensive care bed, and much of which is needed before the ventilator, and of course you need the staff to operate it as well. Nonetheless, the whole episode is rather symptomatic of the government's general response to the pandemic. We have manufacturers in the UK who can make ventilators. When the government should have been sourcing many more of them, we were told by these companies that all of the products that they were making were going overseas because other major nations were ordering them, but not the UK. Then the government decided that rather go with established ventilators, they simply need to be manufactured and delivered. They'd try and get them from new firms to make some, which would need designing, testing, clearing for medical use, before being manufactured and delivered like it would be for the established ones. So how's that idea going? It seems not actually all that well. Don't get me wrong, if we were ordering as many as we could from established manufacturers and then getting other firms to top up because we just can't get enough in the time we need them, I would say fair enough. But that's not the case. The government didn't encourage other engineering firms to do these new designs in addition to the established ones, but instead of. We turned down the opportunity to get in on the EU's procurement scheme, which could have netted us all the ventilators we'd need. We also refused to order from established manufacturers ourselves, including, as I say, UK-based firms. And now the situation is getting even more ridiculous. So there was a plan for Formula One teams, amongst others, to build some ventilators. That has been scrapped. It turns out that designing something from scratch that we need desperately yesterday with changing circumstances isn't actually as brilliant an idea as it appeared to the drug-addled brains of senior cabinet ministers. And even some of the designs that have been prepared are still awaiting regulatory approval for use in hospitals. There was a lot of talk about Dyson producing a model and producing 10,000 of them, but that hasn't been approved either. This is a month after those new models were all the rage in government circles. And you have to wonder if it's all just a plan to avoid paying for ventilators that they think they're only going to need during this crisis. You turn down the offer from the EU that would have given us everything we need. Don't order from manufacturers who could produce them in as short a time as possible, although they can't churn them out overnight, and say instead that you want to order from firms who have never built these things and don't do a blind thing to fast track the procedures needed to get them approved for use and manufactured and delivered to the NHS. And until they are approved for use, I can't imagine these firms are going to be building the tens of thousands that we need just in case. Of course they're not. So that still has to be done afterwards as well. And even that isn't the end of it. It takes specialist nurses to operate ventilators because, well, you need to be trained in their use. Well, these are new models. Yes, some are adapted from existing designs, but some are entirely new. And I'm sure they're designed to be as user-friendly as possible. But that is still going to mean training needs, surely, for nurses before they even can be used. And this is after approval, manufacture and delivery, and without that training it's going to be an absolute nightmare. The last thing we need is nurses trying to get to grips with unfamiliar machinery when patients are in desperate need of them. We don't want a situation where it's like your Uncle Tom working out why the remote control for the new telly is opening the garage door. So what's the government's explanation for all the delays? So what started their obsession with getting completely new firms to make ventilators was actually not itself a ridiculous thing to have explored. There was a discovery in Italy that in actual fact coronavirus patients didn't need the all bells and whistles ventilators that are standard in intensive care units. Much simpler ones will do the trick just fine. Fair enough. And of course, if you need loads and loads of them at once, and you can get firms who don't build ventilators to build and design simpler ones, Okay, that's fine. But the problem is that the government keep revising the specs they need. The government announced recently that it's changing its specifications, that manufacturers should continue to follow the current guidance, but do expect changes. So you want us to design this thing according to this spec, but you're telling us that you are going to be changing that spec, which means they're going to have to be redesigned. And this is, and until the government nail down what spec they actually want, they can't get approval. They can't therefore be ordered, manufactured and delivered. Now, if you were designing something for future use, this would be unfortunate for the engineers who are constantly being messed about by the changes to the specs, but it's understandable enough, However, these machines are needed now. Ones developed a month ago have still not had approval, and the government has changed its mind about what specs the machines should be made to, meaning that we aren't likely to get any of the new ones for some time to come. Bear in mind, ones that were designed a month ago have still not had approval now, so when the new specs come online, and as the point at which I'm recording this they have not yet, let's say they are by the end of the week, and let's say they get to it and design something that meets those next week, we're looking at more than a month for approval, long after the point at which the NHS is going to have met the greatest demand. It's more delay and confusion when we're not preparing for a crisis that should have been done years ago. We're now in the middle of that crisis. We haven't really got time for it. But anyway, that is the situation. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.